Hey y'all, Lily here. Today we are wrapping up at Sica Hollow in South Dakota. If you have been following along with me, you know that I started this research back in January and we did the first day on stream. Then I had some things pop up in my regular life and I had to take care of those, which delayed my research quite a bit, but now we are ready to wrap up. If you would like to see that research, even though it was a little bit disjointed and some things do tend to repeat a bit, unfortunately, I do have it linked down in the description along with the written blog post that I have on this. Not everything that I put in the blog post always makes it into my wrap-up videos, and some things in the wrap-up videos don't always make it into the blog post. So it can be fun to enjoy both, but please enjoy whichever version you prefer, whether it is written or visual. But Sica Hollow is located near Sioux, South Dakota, and is about 900 acres of beautiful forest trails and indigenous spirits. The ancient Sioux legend tells of a man who was so egotistical that he not only condemned himself to death at the hands of a god, but an entire village as well. And now the waters run blood red with those who die, and you can still hear the echoes and screams of people as they perished. Because of this, the Dakota named the area Sica, meaning bad or evil. You guys know how I am with words that I am unfamiliar with, and that I know I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing. I'm going to not attempt to say a few of these words, and instead we'll just use the English translation for some of them as to not severely butcher native names. But let's get started on the lore, shall we? The Dakota Sioux legend tells of a beautiful and peaceful place where people lived in harmony with the land. One winter, a man named Hand came to the village, and his demeanor made the women of the tribe nervous, and he took without giving back to the land. As a result, he was asked to leave come spring, and instead of leaving, Hand taught the younger men of the village to strike and kill in a way that the elders did not approve of. The elders sought help from the medicine man, wanting to make a sacrifice to return the hollow to its previous harmonious state. The medicine man spoke with the Great Spirit, who sent his messenger Thunderer to rid the land of Hand and to take his sacrifice. Thunderer beat his wings and formed a rain cloud that flooded the hollow, and Hand was consumed by madness, and when he tried to flee, vines grabbed and encircled his ankles, water filled his mouth, and Thunderer ripped out his eyes with his talons so Hand might never see the happy hunting ground. The only survivor of the flood was a young woman named Fawn, who fled to the highest hill and sang out to the Great Spirit before falling asleep and sleeping for many days. When she finally woke up, the hollow was as it was, but the horrors lived on in her memory and in legend. Those who walk the Trail of Spirits today can still see the blood-red waters, see apparitions, hear drums chanting, moans, groans, screams, and even find themselves on trails that never seem to end when they should. In the 1840s, the first white settler to the area by the name of Robert Worry moved to the hollow and built his home, even though the local indigenous people thought he was crazy, as they no longer lived in that area. The U.S. government sent soldiers into the hollow to find Roy years later, and by the time they returned, they deemed him crazy as well for making his home there. During the Civil War, attempts were made to relocate a tribe that was living near the area, and they claimed that the land would be cursed if they were forced off of the land. The tribe was chased into the hollow, and they were never seen again. We do have some cryptids in the area that are of a Bigfoot type. Others are of a half-man, half-beast shapeshifter, a half-man, half-horse, but with only 2 hooves. And because this is a Native American legend, of course, we have shapeshifters. In the 1970s, several hikers reportedly went missing in the area, and while out searching for them, several of the search party members were supposedly told to keep an eye out for this Bigfoot type of creature that may have been the reason for the missing hikers. The hikers were never found, but neither was Bigfoot. And today, many still visit the area without incident. It is a state park, so there are trails and things like that laid out for people. But there are areas of silence where you would expect to hear animals moving about and birds singing, and instead you hear nothing. And as already mentioned, many find themselves on trails that go longer than they should and repeat without reason. There are campfires that are often seen, but when hikers attempt to locate the campsite, they can never find them. There are areas between trees where mounds of dirt rise up and no animal will supposedly go over them. So that is the lore that we have. And so now let's go over the facts. This one was actually kind of interesting because I didn't have to try and prove or disprove a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff is already known what it is, and we're going to talk about all of that. So first and foremost, with all of the things of like the blood red water and seeing glowing lights and campfires, we know already that the blood red water is rich in minerals that stain the water and even like the rocks, and that much like in other areas, we have swamp gases, decomposing tree stumps, and in this case even small echoing waterfalls that help create the glowing lights and sounds that people see and hear. So that is just some basic science that we do have in a lot of haunted locations. And of course, when these legends were created by the local tribes, they did not know what was causing the waters to be red. So even whether or not their stories happened, this was their explanation for what it was. Kind of like with the Siren of the French Broad, even though I could not locate the original Cherokee legend on that, I could only locate the English version of it. We know that that is more than likely a story that was created just to warn somebody of the rapid areas. So, in addition to swamp gases and decomposing trees and waterfalls, we also have a lot of landscaping that just essentially lets you disappear without a trace at Sica Hollow, which is, a sad but very true fact. There's even a dead man's curve in the area where you can see cars that have gone over the side but had never been recovered. We have bogs and quicksand-like areas, deep gullies, ravines, one small misstep and you can tumble and nobody would ever know what happened to you, and they would not be able to get to you unless they knew very specifically where to look. So if you are in the area, just like you anywhere, whenever you go hiking, one, let people know where you are, be safe, and two, go with a buddy. Always go with a buddy. And three, watch your step, because if you go off trail, you can possibly get missing, which we don't want that. We do know that the U.S. government visited Roy's ravine and that they agreed with the locals that he was crazy for living out there, but we actually don't know why they said that. Were they seeing... I hit my microphone a lot. I am so sorry. Were they seeing something out there? Were they seeing this half man, half horse? Were they seeing Bigfoot? Were they seeing the lights? Were they seeing something else? Or was the terrain just so insane and bad and terrible that getting down to where Roy lived was actually insane? I mean, they never specified why, at least not in my research that I could find, but that is a possibility, that it was not something spooky that made them think he was crazy for living there, but just literally the difficulty getting in and out of his home. And speaking of cryptids that live in the area and creatures that live in the area, we don't know for certain if there is a cryptid, but we do know there are bobcats and bears in the area. There have been reports of cat prints up to 5 feet in span, which is a bit big for a bobcat. A bobcat normally goes, I have this about 3 feet in length, so a 5 foot span is quite large. And there was at least one report of a large brown bear sighted. And brown bears are 3 to 5 feet at the shoulder and 5 to 7 feet in length. And even though this was a large brown bear, it's worth noting that a very large brown bear can be 9 feet tall while standing on its hind legs. So if we know that this area is a good food source and, easy hunting and everything, so a bear, a whole bunch of bear could live in the area, and if there was one that was large or extra large, he could very easily stand up and be mistaken for a Bigfoot. And with seeing prints, while I didn't find anything specific about seeing prints for bears or for Bigfoot, if you did not know what a bear print looked like, which I hope if you are hiking, you know these kinds of things, but if you just found yourself in the area and you did not know, you might mistake a bear print for a Bigfoot print. Whereas I don't think somebody would mistake a bobcat print for a Bigfoot print simply because the very difference. I mean, you have basically giant kitty cat paws. And I think we all kind of know what those look like. But I also want to note that while I didn't have a specific black bear sighting, black bears are known to be in the area as well. And they average 3 to 5 feet on all fours and 5 to 7 feet on their hind legs. So brown and black bears are roughly the same size. Now, there was one piece of information that I found very interesting. There was a Native American village found and excavated near Roy Lake, which is, per Google Maps, only about 13 miles from Sica Hollow State Park, or about a 4-hour, 45-minute hike. So this does play into the legend of thunder flooding a nearby village, and even the distance from the lake to the hollow is a feasible hiking distance for a young woman who is very determined to sing to her God from the highest hill possible. It is worth noting that the source of information that mentioned this village did not mention any dating, so I'm not really sure how it compares with the legend, but I did find it very interesting that we do have a excavated, flooded village near Lake Roy, so close enough to the hollow that this is a very real possibility that the village itself came from a real source. And so now to give you guys my thoughts on everything that I haven't already provided you. This one, I kind of went down the Bigfoot path for a while. I was actually trying to skim read The Spirit of In the Spirit of Crazy Horse, which is a book that mentions a Bigfoot type in it. And the location that it was mentioning, which for me was a reasonable travel distance for a Bigfoot type, it was about, I think, 120 miles from Sica to, I believe it was Little Rock, Little River, Little Eagle. I think it's Little Eagle. I have to go through the list of names. I think it was Little Eagle. It's a distance that I believe a Bigfoot could travel, but the Bigfoot that they were talking about in the book was actually more of a spiritual type that would appear to people during times of distress. So it's interesting, and I do want to look into that more, probably just on my own and actually sit down and really read that book. But in this case, it didn't really go in hand with what I was looking for. I'm looking for an actual creature type and not just a Bigfoot type. I'm sorry, a spirit Bigfoot type. I need an actual creature. And in regards to creatures living in the area, with the horses and the half man, half horse creature, if there was something like that in the area, I find it interesting that somebody would assume somehow that this horse only had 2 hooves or 2 feet, 2 legs, however you want to put it. If you've never seen it, horses can walk on 2 feet. It's been done. I don't know a reason why they necessarily would, but even without that, horses are pretty smart, and they can, kind of like how we've all seen cats that can walk on their own little paw prints. horses can do the same thing, and I do have some photos linked of where, without even trying, there were some horses that almost were in their own steps. So without having more information other than just a quick source, like one source stating half man, half horse kind of thing, I think we can almost safely disregard something like that. Whether or not a Sasquatch lives in the area, it's you guys know I love Bigfoot, right? He's like one of my favorite cryptids, but he could be just about anywhere. I mean, especially in a location like this where it's really difficult for people to get in and out. But over generations, I do think that eventually we might find something, but you never know. And then, of course, there is the spiritual aspect of a Bigfoot type creature that, well, if that's the case, we'll probably never find a true way of proving that that particular Bigfoot exists. So I think we could probably rule out the half man, half horse as far as Bigfoot, or even a shapeshifter. Who knows? Let's go spend a few nights down in the hollow and we'll see, I guess. I do find the area itself very interesting because there are a lot of steep areas for people to disappear off of without a trace. And I really do think that's probably why the U.S. government seemed to think that Roy was crazy for living in the area, was because this land was just so difficult to navigate. I really do wish that there was more information given as to why, but I would say, again, if you are going to go hike in the area, let people know you're going, no matter how good of a hiker you are. Just let people know that you're going out there and when you will be back. All those smart safety things. Don't go and do something stupid, and please stay on the trail. I don't want anybody wandering off. So there were some interesting points that I would have loved to explore more on, but the interwebs seem to be a little bit lacking. For instance, in the areas where nature seems to fall silent, is this like a constant silence kind of thing, or could it just be a human made too much noise, or there is an unseen predator in the area? The mounds of dirt that rise up between trees, how much space is between those mounds of dirt? Are we talking like body sized, or do you just have two trees that maybe the roots are pushing up? When you say no animals will go over them, do you mean, dogs, like hunting dogs won't go over them, or are, like, do squirrels and birds never land in those areas? Are there no insects? Yeah, I'm curious about those kinds of details. I didn't really see the mounds in my research. That doesn't mean they don't exist. That doesn't mean they're not there. It just means I didn't see them. I would love to see more information on them. But I will say one of the interesting things that I did find, for the people who see the lights and they attempt to get closer to them and are never able to find them, this is very similar to what we saw at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery with the disappearing house. People often would see this house, and when they started walking, they couldn't find it. Same thing with walking trails that seem to be longer than they should be, or not ending, or repeat. So are we back to seeing, something spectral? Are we seeing just like night and distant optical illusions? Are we seeing a time loop or lost time? We may never know, but I do find these things interesting, and unfortunately they're things that I can't, really find evidence on without actually experiencing them firsthand. And even then, how do you say, okay, well, this trail was supposed to take me 4 hours, but it took me 5 hours? How do you prove that without literally recording the entire thing? And even then, who's to say that that's really what it was? You could just be not realizing how long something will take you. I know myself, I sit down and do something that should take me 30 seconds, and 10 minutes later I'm still doing it. So the only person who can cook a 30-minute meal in 2 hours. But anyways, that is it for Sica Hollow. I hope you guys found it as interesting as I did. It was a fun little place for us to come visit. I would love to come back to this area and look into some of the things a little bit more of, the time loops and the lost time, people who are seeing things and never getting closer to them. Those things really interest me, especially with, again, how they link with places like Bachelor's Grove. So I would love more information on that. If you have any questions or if you have any thoughts or comments, please add them below, or you're welcome to add them, over on Discord, where we have a free community that you can join in the conversation there. Because if you have questions, then I want to know what they are, so that way I can try and answer them, and at least do more research to see if I can answer them. Again, the Discord is free. There are some special areas of Discord that are just for my members at each of the different tier levels. And speaking of my members, if you are a monthly member at the $3 and $5 tier, then you are also getting access to my Ghost of Fort Fisher research project, and the mini vlogs and the notes and everything that are getting uploaded for that, and the other fun little mini vlogs. Like I did one this week for my members with a behind the scenes look at my days writing, editing, and recording. So, basically my week this week with getting this finished up. You guys get a fun little behind the scenes look at my life there. So that will be going up at the same time as this video. So my members get a little extra Lily in their life this week, and hopefully going forward I can continue to do more. Please come hang out with us on the socials. I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher, Blue Sky, Threads, even TikTok. I am everywhere. I am either Lily's Lore or the Lily Lord. Just search both. I'm there. And come hang out with me on the socials as well. I hope you guys have a great day, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next one. I have no idea where I am going next. I've got a few places that I need to do a quick little research looks into, and once I am done, we will be off and running. So until next time, stay spooky.